running the other way. I'd be getting out of there, because I love that part of that final part of that movie when old Yul Brynner sits down and the queen says, "What's the problem?" He says, "Moses, God is God." He finally got the finally got the picture. But you see, we don't recognize sometimes that Lord is our God. 12th, and now Israel, what doth God require of thee? But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good. Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is the Lord thy God, the earth also, with that therein is. There's 5 things here, and we won't have time to go over them too much in detail, but there's 5 things, and they apply to us just as well. Do not forget, the same God who sat on his throne at the time of the Pharaoh in Egypt is the same God who sits on his throne today. The first thing it says is to fear the Lord. Now, I thought about that, and I thought, the typical, you know, you've heard the typical, that means to respect. That means to respect and honor God. Right? That's what it means? Yeah. But you know what? I think we forget sometimes there's an element there that I think it means exactly what it says. We should fear God. If you went and talked to the citizens of Sodom and Gomorrah in hell, what do you think they think about God? Do you think there might be a little fear, actual fear? When you think about the God who builds these beautiful mountains and rivers and valleys and all of creation, and you think about the power, do we even begin to understand that God is powerful? That He is the creator of the world. He has the power of everything in His hands. And we, oh, God said that, okay. You know, it's a good thing we're not God, aren't we, John? You know what I'd do? I'd go, zap! You're gone, buddy. You know, somebody come out with some of the curses and the profanity that you hear sometimes, you know. There'd be a black spot there. And then I'd like to be the one to come along and says, what do y'all think God thought about that? You know? Wouldn't you love that? God is all-powerful. We need to fear Him. Can God do something to you? You can be gone today, folks. There's nothing guaranteeing you walking out this door. There's nothing guaranteeing that you have one day. I don't care if you're young. There's nothing to guarantee. We need to fear that the God we need to worship. Every time in Scripture, when somebody comes into the presence of God, even be it in a vision or a dream, what happens? Oh, hey, how you doing today, old man? You know, how you doing, God? Thought I'd come up and visit with you for a while. Does that happen? They come into the presence of God and they fall flat on their feet and they say, woe unto me, for I am a man of unclean lips. Every time God said, take off your shoes to Moses. You're on holy ground. Why was it holy ground? Because God was there speaking to him. Yeah, a little fear would help, wouldn't it? Why did you get saved? A little bit, maybe a lot. Says, I don't want to go to hell. We don't talk about hell very much, folks. You know why we don't talk about it very much? Because we don't like the sound of it. When you think about the fact that you could end up there for your eternity, not just for a couple weeks vacation, but for your eternity, that's a little scary. I think people do well sometimes if they would stop and think about that, wouldn't they? Evaluate, where am I going with my life? Where is it going to all end up? I'm going to go there somewhere, someplace, someday. And I need to think about that. What happens if you spend your whole life and it's for nothing and you end up in hell? What did you accomplish? How intelligent were you? How wise were you? You know, one of the things that's so difficult is there's so much flim-flam out there. Satan's got this old world wrapped in so many lies and deceptions and everything that's really hard for us sometimes to really separate out and see what's out there. And we go merrily on our way, doing whatever we want. What's the theme? Feels good, do it. Doesn't matter what God says. Doesn't matter anything else. If it feels, you think it's great, you know, and you enjoy, go ahead. Well, someday. What's that famous sermon by R.G. Lee? Payday someday. There is a judgment someday. What about Korah? Anybody here know who Korah was? Korah was a guy in the camp of Israel who decided that him and his family could do just as well as Moses and Aaron in leading Israel. So he goes to them and he says, we think we should have a vote about this. Can you imagine? Going to vote on Moses, whether Moses should lead us or not. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Number one, it isn't your call. It's God's. Number two, if Moses had not been standing there and several times said, Lord, please don't destroy them, and stood before God with his hands out in supplication, please, Lord, don't. Because God said, get out of the way, Moses. What did he say? I'll get rid of all of them and I'll make a nation of you. Please, God. Please, God. I know these people are stiff-necked and but he even offered himself. Take me instead. Israel was really weird about that. But Korah leads this rebellion, and you know what happened? The earth opened up. Now I want you to think about this, folks, because sometimes we say, oh, we just don't understand why there's some of these things that happen in the world like it is. The earth opened up, and Korah, his wives, his children, his brothers, his sisters, all of that family. I think if I remember, there's 100 some of them or something like that. They all died that day because they followed him. Because he rebelled against God. You see, when God is dealing with us, when God is leading us, and God is showing us the way, he's not out playing a softball game. He means business. He's serious about what he's doing. And so when people take it lightly. Now I wonder, if you went to hell and you spoke to Korah Do you think Korah feared God? I think Korah would have had a newfound feeling about God. Second thing, he said to walk in his ways. Turn to Exodus chapter 20. My grandkids are always telling me that I'm old-fashioned. Well, I am. I still believe that when God wrote some things down, he meant business. The Ten Commandments are the basis for all of Western civilization's laws. They started from there. And today, we're taking those out. They're not in the schools. They're even being, it used to be, you did not find a courthouse in the land that did not mention the Ten Commandments, and in many cases had them written on the pillars. They're being taken out. How long has it been since you've even heard about the Ten Commandments? Well, do you know what the Ten Commandments are, folks? They're the heart of God. They show you and they tell you what God's about. So they don't change. They're very real. Chapter 20. And the Lord spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Oh, well, what does that mean? Oh, it's okay for me to play with 2 or 3, right? As long as I give him the main thing. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. What's a graven image of a god? What do they look like? Porsches, Ferraris, no. What? Boats! Where's ushers? Throw this lady out, will you? Took me 10, 15 years to get my boat. Now you want me to... Graven image is anything that represents that which you choose to worship. What's that? Don't get excited, there ain't nothing in it. How many people today genuinely worship the wallets? How many people today genuinely worship the fact that they got X number of dollars in the bank? I hope it never happens, folks. But if you wake up some morning and America has financially collapsed, you can have all the money in the world in the bank and it won't mean nothing. You'll still be as broke as everybody else. Thou shalt have no other God. Thou shalt not make any graven image or likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. Israel struggled with this all of its life. It would get prosperous and would forget about God, and it would start to worship some other god. And the thing about it is, it was so heinous, they tried worshiping God at the same time. Remind you of anybody? Isn't that what America does? We profess to know a certain amount about God, and we get into trouble, and we have some airplanes fly into a couple of towers, and all of a sudden we're a religious nation again, serving God. We forget, don't we? Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. You and I don't even want to begin to explore the children unto the third and fourth generation that might be affected by our sin and our rebellion. I'm not sure I could even bear to think that much about it. Because you know, one of the things about getting older is you get the privilege. You guys haven't got there yet, but you'll get there. You got a little bit of it. But you get there older and you got the wonderful privilege of looking back in your life and seeing what you did wrong. Isn't that thrilling? I get laid down, before bed sometimes, and you know how your mind starts to wander, and I'll think about something, and I have to get up because I get so aggravated at myself for what I did. I look back and I see all the missed opportunities of serving God like He intended. And you have that what if type of thing with a great deal of regret. And showing mercy on 1,000 of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Just a little profanity isn't all that's involved there. For the Lord will not